Hi everyone, welcome to week 5 of our class. This week we're taking a look at net-based applications, also more commonly probably known as Web 2.0 tools. So that's what we're going to be thinking about this week. You turned in your lesson plans and all for week 4. Hopefully the sample lesson plan helped. Since this was your first lesson plan, and for some of you this might have been the first lesson plan that you've ever written, I will give people a chance to revise this one. So if you are not happy with the grade that you get, that is something that I will be happy to do. So I was just thinking about that today, and I didn't realize that this is maybe some of the first education class some of you guys are taking. So if you haven't learned how to write lesson plans, well, that could be kind of difficult. So there's that. So take a look at that. I'll have those graded by Wednesday, and so you can have those corrections back by the weekend. If you'd like to get those regraded, that will be okay. Okay, so what are we doing this week? Well, you will have your video, this video that I am recording now here when you log in. So let's take a look at our readings for this week. We're week 5, guys. 3 weeks left of class and you are done. Chapter 4, you're going to be reading in the 4th edition, and Chapter 7 in the 6th edition. So just one chapter this week. All right, so then we have our first activity, web-based tools for teachers. And this is also going to help you with the blog post as well, and you'll see that in a few minutes. So there are so many useful tools, guys, all the time, changing. All right, so there are things out there I know that I don't even know exist. And we're going to be taking a look at this one website. It's called 4teachers.org, the number 4teachers.org, and it's sponsored by the University of Kansas. It contains a lot of useful resources for teachers, also some free tools. And we'll take a look at those down the right side of the page for some things that you can use in your classroom. There are a couple things like Quizstar that requires a subscription, but all of the other tools only require a name and an email to set up an account. So you're going to take some time to look at this website. So let's take a look at it right now. And it is pulling up. All right, so if you scroll down, you'll see what I'm talking about right here, guys. This Rubistar, as you all know, I'm a big fan of rubrics, and I think they take a lot of the guesswork out of grading for teachers and out of completing things for students. And this Rubistar right here will help you build rubrics. Got some games you can try. Trackstar, that one's a pretty neat one. Casa Notes, if you guys haven't taken a look at that. So there's some things here you can just go through and take a look at, just explore. All right, and so once you have done that, looking especially at Rubistar, Trackstar, Casa Notes, and the Web Poster Wizard, that one's a neat one too that you could have students use. So take a look at those and then read through this article right here. You just click, it should open it up for you. I always like to double check, and I probably should have. Yeah, 31 educational web tools every teacher should know about. Guys, if you can't find something to write about or use in your classroom, we're just going to have to keep looking, but I think through all of these things, you're going to find some really cool things to use. All right. So some of them you might have already heard of. It's like we've already used Prezi this year and talked about this, but there are some really cool things out there that you can use. So just take some time and read through some of these, take a look at them, and think about the grade level and your content areas that you hope to teach, or maybe you already teach, and kind of maybe focus on things that would make the most sense to you. All right, so you've got all that information, and now you are armed and ready to answer our discussion questions. So let me close out these two, and we'll take a look at our discussion questions. So just like every week, please post your initial response by Wednesday night and respond to 2 of your classmates by Friday, Sunday at the latest. But so you want to discuss a 4teachers.org tool. So focus on that one website, the 4Teachers website, because you can think about the other ones maybe more so in the blog post. But unless you find just something else really useful out there, but think about some kind of tool like this that you find either on this 4Teachers website or maybe something you found on your own, and think about what are some classroom uses you might put this tool. To which you might put this tool. So in your post, that's what I want you to talk about. Tell us about the tool. If it's not on, tell us where it is. So if it's on 4Teachers, you can say that. If not, say where it is. And then how would you use it in the classroom? Maybe come up with 1 to 2 ways you could use it with your students. And that's our discussion question for this week. All right, so that is activity 5.1. All right, and then we're going to create a podcast. And podcasts are all the rage right now, right? If you guys listen, I listen to podcasts all the time. My podcast interests definitely lean more towards entertainment. If you haven't listened to Lore, that's a great one. If you're interested in true crime, My Favorite Murder. If you're interested in, some fun paranormal stuff, there's one called Mostly Dead. And then being a child of the 90s, I do listen to some about Beverly Hills 90210, but I won't go into that and bore you. But podcasts are great. And teachers can use them in their classroom. They can create podcasts. They can have students create podcasts. As an American literature teacher this past year, I had my students create an American folklore podcast. And so there's some really neat things you can do. So let's look at the assignment and then let's look at some resources, because you're probably thinking, okay, how am I going to do this? What is this? Well, a podcast, if you don't already know that, it's simply a recording. Maybe it's teaching about something, maybe it's telling about something, maybe it's trying to entertain someone, but it's usually a type of recording, all right? It's usually just audio. There usually wouldn't be any video with that, maybe some music to make it kind of fancy, but it can just be a voice recording. All right, so let's take a look at the podcast assignment instructions. So you can download these, of course. Now you're going to need a microphone. Guys, right now I'm using my earbuds out of my iPhone. You can use any kind of microphone. If the microphone that's built into your computer is good, you can use that as well. All right, so in this assignment, you're going to create a very basic podcast. And if the word podcast is freaking you out, just think voice recording, okay? All right, and you're going to load this and link it to your website. So if you taking a look at the rubric, you will know that the final project in this class is creating a website. All right, and so that's what you're going to do. So a voice podcast is all that is required, but if you want to add music and other sound effects and you know how to do that, go ahead, but that will not affect your grade if you do not do that. All right, so your first step is to plan a script. Don't try to fly by the seat of your pants, all right? So for this assignment, you want to create a podcast on any topic for any grade level you wish. So I want you to imagine that this is for your students, all right? So maybe you read them a poem and ask them some questions about it, or you give a description of a place of a historical site. Maybe you talk about how to carry out a mathematical function or any other topic that you believe might be useful to your students. But you definitely want to plan carefully and have some sort of script, even if it's just, an outline of notes, to make sure that your podcast is of good quality, that you don't get off topic, that kind of thing. Don't make it too long. You guys know our kids their attention spans are short, so let's keep it short. So now this is the thing about Google Sites, and we are going to talk about that, but I think you're going to be okay, obviously, with the link, because for this assignment, I've changed this up a little bit from the way we used to do it. I think the easiest way to record your podcast is with this website, and it's called SpeakPipe. So let me show you. My students used this in American literature, and this is really the way to do this. So it's free, and it's going to generate an HTML code for you to just turn in, or a link for you to turn in to me, all right? So if you click here, all you have to do, you don't have to sign up or sign in. You just click Start Recording. And it says, okay. You can tell it, now it's recording. Click Stop. All right, click Save on Server. Put your name in if you want to. Click Save. And give it a second. All right, and here you go. All you have to do is take this, highlight it, copy it, and then you just turn this into the Dropbox. So that's all you have to do. So unless there's some other way that you want to record this, but I'm telling you, I really think this is the easiest way to not only record it, but to link it to your website. All right, so, but that being said, if you are some kind of recording guru and you want to use, GarageBand or iMovie or something, please feel free to use what you want. You can also use Audacity. That's a free audio editing software, but that's up to you. So this podcast will theoretically be available to anyone who accesses your website to download it or just to listen to it. So make sure it's a good one. All right. And once you've carefully planned it out, you're going to be able to record it. All right. And then I'll show you some of the things to help you in just a second. All right, so we talked about this. So you're going to definitely be uploading it to your website as well, but you're also going to turn it in for a grade or linking it to your website. So guys, let's take a look at this rubric real quick. It's worth 30 points. So first of all, your podcast should contain quality content related to a specific age level and subject or topic. It needs to be, that you're doing this for educational purposes, number one. And then number two, don't just start talking and then stop talking. And you need to make sure you have an introduction. Tell your students, tell your listeners what it's going to be about. All right, and then have some direction, right? So you're going to, maybe you might be doing a poem and you tell the students, okay, I'm going to read you this poem by Shel Silverstein, and as I'm reading, I want you to make note of or look for, metaphors or similes, just something for if it's math, think about this problem as I talk you through it, work it out with me, just so, yes, they're listening, but they also have some direction, something to do while they're listening. And then a conclusion, wrap it up, say be ready to talk about this in class or whatever it might be. But just make sure there's a clear introduction, some direction before the content, and then a conclusion. And then finally, make sure it's free of technical errors and it's free of grammatical errors, which would be obviously spoken ones, but I think you guys will be okay with that. So, and if you look right here, here are some podcasting resources. So here's some help with podcasting, more help with podcasting. Here's some examples of teacher and student podcasts on TeacherTube. And then once again, here's another link to SpeakerPipe if you decide to use that. Now, if you wanna get techie and fancy and use Audacity, go for it. This explains how to do it because you have to save your files in a certain way to make sure it's an MP3 so I can hear it. And you'll have to do that with a file converter. But all of that information is right here if you decide to go that way. That's up to you. All right, so that's our podcast. If you have questions about that, please feel free to ask me, especially once you get going with it. All right, and then finally this week we have our final blog post of our course, and it is in our Technology Thoughts for Education blog. So week 5, it says, please describe a worldwide web application that you have used. It could be a blog, it could be a wiki, it could be a podcast, it could be social media. How did you use it? Was it for a class, for personal use, etc.? And how do you think it can be used in a lesson or a unit? For example, I use Facebook, most of us do. And while you might not technically want to use Facebook in class with your students, although I do know many teachers who have classroom Facebook pages, you could, have students do something with, creating a Facebook page for a literary character, things like that. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can do. So just think about it, and look around, Google, think about the Web 2.0 tools that you looked at back in right here, the web-based tools for teachers. You can talk about some of that as well. But think about something you yourself have personally used. All right? Okay, guys, that is it for week 5. Like I said, one more time, I will be grading your lesson plans and getting those back to you. And for just the first lesson plan, you will have the opportunity to resubmit if you need it. Have a fantastic week, and I'm here if you need me.